Jason here with the Oklahoma Child Care Resource and Referral Association. Welcome back to our tutorial series on the WLS database portal. Now, in our previous episodes, we've taken a look at inputting data into the touch points, the program tab, and the referral tabs. Today, we're going to take a look at how we get that data back, how we run some reports and see what's been going on with our system. Now, these reports that we're going to go over today are very, very customizable. So what you see in your system may be different than what I show you today. The mechanics of how it works, though, is the same regardless of what report you're running. Now, WLS is not like a lot of database systems that you've seen before where you have to write lines of code to get appropriate data back. WLS has simplified that process and has created a menu-based system where through checkboxes and lists, you can get the data you want without having to learn any complicated coding. So let's get started. Today we're going to be taking a look at just the program side of things to get those reports back. And then in the next video, we'll take a look at the referral side. So from the home page, we click on this reports tab and it drops down a list of the available reports that we can use. Now, we're just going to go one by one down through these just to show you kind of the reports that we can get out of this system. So the first report is this program activity report. Now, this one shows us how many times a particular action log has been used in the programs. Now, we talked about the action logs when we were talking about the program profile and how to add manual ones and how to read those in the individual profile. This gives us a report of all of those throughout the system. So if we go through these, the first thing you'll notice is the start and end date. You can change this to whatever you want it to be, the length of time you want to view your reports for. Just for giggles, we're going to just start with the 1st of January. You can select what type of program that you would like information on. Just for giggles, we'll click these top 3. If there are additional program types within a facility, we can check that. We can select regions. Just for giggles, we'll go with Oklahoma City. Or if we would rather, we can do county and city or any combination of these as well. Do bear in mind, though, the more checkboxes you have, these will function as OR modifiers in some cases. Once we have everything selected that we'd like to see, we just click this green arrow button here on the left, and it will run the report for us. And give it just a second to run that report. And we have a list. Now, you'll notice that there are 2 sets of numbers, one with duplicates and one without. Whenever this action log is entered into the system, a lot of times, particularly when you have a long time period that you're covering, you'll see some that have multiple entrances. For instance, this attempted update action log. If that particular provider has multiple of those entered into the system, say they tried once a week for this time period, that would be a duplicate. The system is seeing multiple attempted update action logs in the program's profile. And so with duplicates, it's counting every single instance of those and reporting that. Without duplicates, it's actually just seeing the first one and just counting that. And any duplicates that occurred later, it's leaving off the report. So for sometimes you want with duplicates, that shows that you have made multiple attempts at a particular action log. But sometimes you only want to know if it's been done or not, and that's when the without duplicates comes in handy. The Export to Excel button will do exactly what it says. It downloads it in an Excel document. You can open that up and look. In this particular report, it just shows these numbers, so there's no reason to download it unless you need a hard copy for some reason. In the upper right-hand corner, you may have noticed this book with a question mark. Many of these reports have this icon. If you click on it, it will open up a PDF of the purpose of the report, any definitions that might be unique, what data is being pulled, all of those kinds of information about that particular report. And some of them, it's very handy to have those definitions available. Moving on to our next report, we have the action log export. Now on this one, we can select whatever action log we want to see and be able to download a table that will show us when the action log was made, who made it, to what program it was, any notes that might have occurred, all of those kinds of informations. So for instance, if we go through our start date, we'll go back to January 1, again, just for giggles. Let's say we want to look at just child care centers this time. We want licensed centers, active centers, and if we leave these blank, it will automatically assume all of them, or we can click on specific regions, counties, cities, and zip codes. And then for the action log we want to look at, these are all of the action logs in the system, both those that the system generates and those that are manually entered. And for this particular example, we'll just go with this complete update 2, just for an example of what is available. Once we have everything selected that we're looking for, we hit the green arrow. And after a few seconds, it will download this Excel file automatically. We click on it to open, and it opens up Microsoft Excel. And you can see we have a laundry list of all of these action logs that have been entered in. And these are all the action logs of that complete update number 1. And we can expand those out and really see exactly what's going on. We have the unique ID WLS gives to all the profiles, the users, the program that has the action log, what type it is, their license number, etc. All kinds of information here. Down at the bottom, we can see any status changes for the program profiles that have come back in this report. So if they did not have a complete update to action log in the time period we specified, they will not be in this report with a status history change. Same thing with the referral status history. If the referrals have changed in this time period and they had the action log we were searching for, they'll show up. Moving on to our next report, the program type change. This shows any time that a program was changed from one type to another type. And again, we can run this with similar filters as we had before. We can go all the way back as far as we want. We'll say just the top 3, run it, and then we see all of the changes that have been changed within this time period. Now these are program type changes. You may have this, you may not in your particular area, but here in Oklahoma, these are some that we use. Again, back to the program reports. The age table data, we use this a lot here in Oklahoma. These are our pricing information and our number of openings available. Now the first thing to notice on this one is that the first 3 boxes down here at the bottom are grayed out. There is a minimum amount of data that you have to request before these populate. So again, we're going to select these top 3. We're going to leave this open. Program status active. age group. Let's go look at all of them. We want the cost of care full-time weekly. Not interested in numeric totals, but you can get the number of openings from this report as well. We'll say just the licensed. Not interested in regulation or accreditation, but of course you can pull that data separately, so you could compare non-accredited to accredited providers. And then to get these last three filter buttons to populate, we have to give it some geographic definition. Now we could do that by region, we could do it by county, we could do it by city, or we could do it by zip code. For this particular one, let's just say by county, and we're going to go ahead and select all. Now the 5 buttons down here at the bottom give a lot of different information. On the right you have export data without filters and export all data without filters. This will give you absolutely everything there is, one line at a time. So it will say Jane Doe's child care for infant is this much, and then in the next line it will go Jane Doe's child care for toddlers, and it will say full-time weekly price this much, and it goes down through all of those, and it can become a little overwhelming, which is why we use the filters to get the data we want. Now, exporting data with filters, that's going to give us just what we're looking for, but it's still going to be that one line at a time all the way through. So you might have 5, you might have 6, you might have 7 different rows on your table for however many programs show up in your report. So you might get literally tens of thousands of rows if you run this way. Now the way I like to run it is just this report's totals. Now that gives us kind of a concise picture of what's going on based on our geographical limiter. So the first thing you see is this all locations. Now this gives you a good overview of the data you've requested. So the first thing, the type of program, the number of providers, and then the providers that actually have data. So sometimes we may or may not be able to get pricing information from our providers, especially for the older age groups, and so it shows up here how many our averages are actually based on. As we go down through, we can see it's by county. So Adair County, Alfalfa County, Atoka County, Beaver County, etc., etc., etc. And it all shows this same information: the number of programs, how many have data, and then pricing information. All the way through. Now another unique thing about this is as you're going through this, you can kind of see if there's anything weird that sticks out. For instance, in this preschool line, you see one here that says max $14,000. That is obviously not right. It's probably one that was $140 that just got extra zeros added on. Well, rather than have to go through all of our providers to try to find where the error is, if you see one that's weird in here, you can go and just click on it, and it will show you exactly what provider that comes through. And if we click on the edit button, we can go directly to that program's profile, edit that line to fix the problem, and then come back. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but just to show you how that goes. Moving on, the program counts and total capacity. That's a real good snapshot of basic program numbers. How many there are, how many are active, how many are inactive, their total capacity, and a few other pieces of information. Now this is a live number, but it does show in the date range you select how many have been added, and how many have been closed. And as with many of these others, you can select different regions, the counties, if they're licensed or licensed exempt, or however your regulation is set up in your area. Also, accreditation. The program schedule export takes it a second, but once it comes up, you can click it in the lower left-hand corner, and it shows you all of the providers and their schedule. So when they open, when they close, for every day of the week. And multiple shifts, if they happen to have multiple shifts. Now, this shows for every provider in your database, so it can be a long list as well. And there's no visual report on WLS for that information. It is a direct download and Excel document. Okay, skipping over these referral documents, the technical assistance report, that shows all of the numbers of technical assistance that have happened in your system during a specified time period. So you can once again select by program type, by region. If you want to drill down to a county, you can. You do have to select a region before you can select the county. You can search this by program name or by specialist name. A date range, just like we've seen in previous reports. The type of delivery, if you leave this blank, it does report on everything, so you don't have to check every box. Same with audience, with your quality initiative, language, licensing violation, trainings, pre- and post-assessment scores, number of points increased, and what core competencies that are being used. Now, these are what we use here in Oklahoma. Again, your area might be slightly different. Once you have the information you would like to see selected, hit the green arrow, and it populates it. And these are numbers of entries into the system. So if you do one entry per visit, these are number of visits. And the number of entries that are assigned with these various different line items. The times, again, these are in minutes. We talked about this when we talked about entering TA, but these are in minutes, so if you need the number of hours, just divide by 60. And then numbers of entries through every TA that happened during this time period. Now, this is the summary view. On the right-hand side, there is a list view, and if you click on that, it shows you all of the various entries into the system for this time period. And you can export that information into an Excel document. And if you click on Manage Export Fields, it allows you to select some more information. So if you want a particular set of data, you can do that as well and export that into an Excel document. And the final report we're going to look at is this QRIS report, and it can take a minute to load once you hit the Run button. So we're going to limit this one fairly a lot to where we don't generate a gigantic report. So we'll just say large family in Oklahoma City, and we'll leave it at that for this report. But as you've seen in others, you can limit it by city, you can limit it by county, and so forth. And once we hit the Go button, we'll let it run. And there we go. And this shows all of the star levels of all of the programs that we have in the system for that particular search. And any extra programs they might have, their license number, what county they're in, etc. So guys, that's it on the program side of things. Next time, we will take a look at the reports available to us on the referral side. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you next time.